Good evening and welcome to this week's special edition of BCL Beyond the Boundary. My name's Warren Hegg from Lancashire Cricket and I'm honoured to have been asked to host this week's special show where we're going to touch on all things wicket keeping in the Bolton League cricket area. We've got four of the very best keepers with us from various eras and delighted to welcome Tim Wallwork, Christian Walsh, John Partington and Simon Booth. Over 2,000 victims between them. Dropped 1,500 between them, but fantastic careers. Gentlemen, good evening and delighted you're able to join us for this very special wicket-keeping edition. How are you doing, boys?
Evening, Warren.
Yeah, evening, Warren. Good, thanks.
Good, chap. We've got keepers here. We've got five of us here. I want to start by having a show of hands. Now, a show of hands, I want to see how gnarled, how crooked, how broken, and how horrible your hands are. And I'll start. Can you beat this? My God, look at that.
Perfect.
It's like that's what happens, Tim. You see, when you take the ball as cleanly as you don't get broken fingers. When you're like us, it looks like a scene from Freddy Krueger. So I'm going to go through it slightly. We've got Tim on 405. We've got Party on a massive 615,
and still playing.
And yeah, we've got Boothie on 550-ish, but well out in front with a magnificent 702. Oh. The most decorated career in Bolton League cricket is Christian Walsh. Walsh, we're going to start with you, mate. Fantastic effort, 700 victims in the league. Unless JP starts kicking the bails off and makes a bit of a comeback, and Boothie suddenly gets in the ears of the umpires, I can't see that being beaten. Can you?
Possibly not, especially with the changes as well from the pure BCL victims as well, which. I'm very proud of, really. Played 20 years, but I always look at Party as being my inspiration, actually. So I know we'll probably go into this in a bit more detail, but Party was one of the reasons I took up keeping seriously, really, when I was a young boy. So I do look up to Party, and it was a dream, and we had a bit of banter about trying to get past his leading total of victims at one point, and it was a good crack. But I'm pretty sure Boothie's got a lot of years. He's certainly got the enthusiasm and the passion. So who knows, Simon?
We'll see. Well, that's all good.
Yeah, whether he might have the passion and the drive, Walsh, but has he got the ability? That's the question that we need to ask, really.
Well, Boothie, do you want to tell everybody who the 700th victim was?
No. Oh.
It was Boothie. Which made it even sweeter, and we shared a pint in it with it at the bar afterwards. But yeah, it was a bit of fun.
Brilliant. Well,
I'm a little bit out of touch, and 700 victims. That's smashing it. That I'm shocked, honestly. I think it's fantastic. That you've got to catch him and you got to stump him.
Yeah, I always used to say when you were being asked as a keeper, but you are down to the bowlers. You've got to have decent bowlers who are putting it in the right areas. Yes, you've got your job to do, but you've got to have some pretty good bowlers at the other end. And I've been lucky enough over that 20 years to have played with some decent bowlers. As you said, Warren, I've probably dropped just as many, but lucky enough to have played with some decent bowlers. And you're there to do a job. That's your job to do. There are other things you've got to do as well, I think, as part of that role, but certainly I've been lucky enough to play with some decent bowlers in that time.
That's superb, and Boothie, I've been listening to the shows each week, and you've had two real stalwart bowlers in the likes of Mark Stewart and Ian Taylor in the past couple of weeks, opening the bowling, taking the new cherry, and their relationship with the keeper has been key, really, for them being as successful. How important is it as a keeper to strike up that relationship with your bowlers?
Massive. I think, obviously, definitely opening bowlers. I think I'm probably slightly different to most. I think I've probably stood up more than most, and I think obviously the amount of stumpings I've had in terms of catches I've been quite selfish where I've always signed a pro spinner at Farnworth. We've had a pro spinner there for donkeys. JP's shaking his head at me now, but he knows what I'm saying. But yeah, I think we've always had a lot of spinners at our place. Farnworth tends to be quite a flat place to bat, so you don't tend to get too many nicks. But obviously, it's slightly different at other places. But Christian's right. If your bowlers aren't up to it, you know, you're not going to get a sniff really.
No, that's true. And Tim, we'll come on to you. You were one of the finest keepers in the league in my era in the middle 80s. When I joined the Bolton League for my couple of years I had with Tong, and you were one of the keepers that I thought, wow, this is the standard of wicket keeping here is really tough. What kind of a keeper did you see yourself as?
Well, thanks, Warren. I played each day. I'll tell you what, I put 1,000,000% in when I got on that pitch. And I liked the aggression. I liked every little bit about it, from the build up to the training, to the fun with the lads. I just liked everything about cricket. It gives me goose pimples to actually be on here and talk about this. And I just felt I was a keeper and let myself down with the batting side, but the keeping side, I loved it so much. And my bit of keeping was all about the stumpings.
Yeah,
I liked the standing back, it was all right. Nicks was okay, but if you were stood up, that was keeping for me. That was, it just gave me such a buzz when I were actually on that pitch. And that ball, missing that bat that much, a little bit, you were taking the ball, you were walking away, throwing it in your hands. Oh, it's a passion. You'll know that, obviously, from where you've been, but it is actually, it's a passion when you keep in wicket and when you stood up to them stumps. Oh,
there's nothing on technical.
Better, does it? You have a game. Oh.
Yeah, you've got to have the technical ability, which you had in abundance of keeping wicket. And you were a smart keeper. You had great hands. You moved your feet well. That's got to be important in the build-up on doing your training on Tuesday and Thursday as well before match day.
Yeah, 100%. You're training. You got to get in them nets. And getting fielding. All I did was touch catches, get somebody at the ball at me. You just never stop, and it was just your hands, all about your hands. Obviously your feet. And I got the best tip I got was feet wise. And I don't know what it is coaching now, JP. I don't know how you would treat somebody. But what they did, they just put a circle from the crease to the crease, like a half circle, and said, work within that area if you can. And that's how I learned from that. And then I first saw Brian Cricken. He was my inspiration. Brian Cricken at Orwich, which is where I started. And I put the gloves on at just under 15, just over 14, because there were no keeper. And I put the gloves on and said, well, I'll do it. And I enjoyed it. And that's where I started keeping. Brian Cricken was playing at Orwich with Les McKnight, with all the Mickey Fleming, all those players. Sid Matthews was actually there. Sid Matthews, he was kind of an inspiration whenever he turned up for a game, or they used to drive to Manchester and pick him up. I remember that. But Brian Cricken, he's the bloke that I saw with his gloves on and thought, And then after that, when I started keeping, I actually saw Stephen Lucas, and he had good hands. And he was me. After Brian Cricken, I then thought, right, I want to be better than Stephen Lucas. That's where I kind of started, but league-wise. You
touched on technical ability, and JP will bring you in at this stage. You know, you've moved on from a very, very successful, career in and around Bolton, amongst other places in the world, I must admit. But how important is technical ability when it comes to being a successful wicketkeeper?
The kid, you got to want to do it, haven't you? You've got to love it. You've got to. You're in the public eye, aren't you? Like a goalkeeper, there's nowhere to hide, is there? You've got them big gloves on. What you drop it ball for? That's what you get. Can you not catch ball with them big gloves? You've got to have a passion for keeping wicket, and you have your days where you keep really well. Victims. Then I used to thrive on victims. I used to love it. I were happy to get if I got a stumping, I were happy than getting a 50. Mad as it is, but you've got to want to do it. And we have got some good young lads at Lancs and whatnot now coming through.
Yeah, and Bolton cricket has always been synonymous with very, very good keepers. And Boothie, you're still an integral part of the Farmworth side at the moment, and you do a lot of coaching at that club. And what's your view on getting these new pipeline of wicket keepers coming into our league?
It's important, isn't it? Because obviously it's a massive part of the game that I think if you're going to build a successful team, you've got to start with ultimately, at first team level, you've got to have a good professional or an overseas or a figurehead batter or a bowler. But if you've got a top keeper, your bowlers are more confident, your bowlers can do a bit more. If you've got people like Tim and Christian and JP who are going to stand up to the wicket, it brings a totally different dynamic to the game. And if you've got people stood up where then batters can't go anywhere, then the bowlers can settle in and the rest is history. So in terms of coaching, I take a lot of what I learned from JP. JP coached me as a young lad, and I sort of try and mimic or just sort of pass that knowledge onto the young lads that I deal with, really.
So are you trying to say as well, Boothie, that along with Walshy, that JP was your inspiration to don the gloves and be a keeper?
In slightly different ways, yeah. But obviously, I know. I started off as I used to bowl. I used to mimic my dad, so I used to bat and bowl, and did quite well at it. And then all of a sudden, one particular junior game, similar to what Tim said, we didn't have a keeper. Someone threw some keeping gloves at me and said, "Do you fancy having a crack at that?" And the rest is history. So, I went to JP and he helped me out massively. But Christian's my biggest inspiration for another reason, because as a young kid, I couldn't shift him. So I was at the same club. I was at Social Circle. Yeah. Christian was in the first team. I got dived into the juniors, did quite well, quite successful. Second team, did really well. And I couldn't shift him, so I had to move on.
Got you. And keepers come in all shapes, all sizes. We have different kind of habits. And Walshy, let's speak to you about what kind of keeper you are. And I'll set the scene that we talked to Tim earlier about his keeping. He was immaculately dressed. His shirt was beautiful. I remember his collars up, and he was a proper keeper. Then on the caveat to that, you had Carl Cricken, whose arms were everywhere, and his jumper was 4 times too big for him. What kind of stuff what made you, Christian Walsh, the keeper he was?
Yeah, appearance. I wouldn't have stood out for any appearance prizes like Tim. That's I wasn't really immaculate by way of my equipment. I remember when I was coming through Lancs Juniors, I got to under 16s when Jim Kenyon was coach, and I got on really well with Jim. But Jim, I naturally gravitated to him. There's a lot of local cricket lads that I think, and he said to me at the trial in the 16s we got in, and I got, he said, "Get your gear on, lad, you go into nets," and he put my gear on. My pads were dirty as they always were. And he said, "Well," he said, "put them back in your bag. You're not keeping in my nets with pads like that, lad. Next time, get them whitened, come back, and then you can have another go." And I took to Jim instantly, but I was one that focused very much on playing the game, play it hard. I didn't really care what I looked like. I did have a little bit of my keeping pads had to match my gloves by way of brand, so there's a little bit of that, but I wasn't much for how I looked. It was more about what I did in terms of my glove work, what I could add to the game in terms of what I brought with the vision on the pitch from behind the stumps. I recognise what Tim's saying very much in terms of standing up to the wicket. So you're there to do a job and catch the ball. You're there to take stumpings. You could influence a game in so many ways. And standing up to the wickets, it switched me on more than stuff. I got bored stood back. I made too many mistakes stood back. Instinctively, I was a lot better stood up to the stumps. Medium pace, spin. I was a lot better stood up to the stump. I just think my instincts took over, and you didn't have to think. And I probably got by quite a lot on that, actually.
Well, I think you did a little bit more than just getting by. But JP, let's come to you as a keeper. You played for a long time and kept a very, very high standard of keeping wicket. What kind of a keeper are you? Were you organised, or were you? I know you got a little bit of OCD. Surely you've got to have a bit of OCD. You've got to be one of those keepers.
Yeah, Gloves were always ace, brilliant gloves. I used to nab them off you more than often.
I was going to say, have you got them on now? have you got a pair there?
As though, go get the lid.
Got a pair there. Get your helmet on as well.
Yeah.
So stirs. I used to sort my gloves out were perfect, right? If I played interleague, I used to change all my studs in my shoes, put Vaseline in them, and tighten them up so I had new studs for an interleague game. But my stuff were always really neat. And I go daft at kids now. If the pads are dirty, sort yourself out. Don't come back next week unless they clean them. Proper get
love it. And let's move on to Boothie. Boothie, you know, as it comes in, you know, I've seen pictures and it's synonymous with the Bolton League of a Simon Booth picture. You've got that mask on like Hannibal Lecter. So appearance can't have been something that you were worried. I mean, you're just looking after you, weren't you?
Well, I think obviously I'm the youngest of the crowd, but I sort of learnt from JP, and I never wore a lid. I never wore a lid as a youngster, and it was a game at Edgerton, first team game at Edgerton. Lee Sutton was bowling, and Lee Sutton just bowls little seamers or little spinners, and it flicked Stuart Hornby on the back leg and smashed me right in the mouth, right in the tooth. Pushed about 2 or 3 teeth back. Yeah. And there was nothing I could do about it. Literally, it just nailed me. There was nothing I could do. And then I worked for Paul Teeby at the time, and obviously Aero back then had made this mask, and Paul said, "Why don't you have a go with it?" And I said, "I'm not wearing that. I look a right idiot. People take mickey out of me." And I had a go at it. I enjoyed it, and I've wore it ever since.
Yeah, I've seen it, and like you say, your health is important. Like you say, you've got to go to work on a Monday. But Tim, let's get back to you and the way you dressed. You know, you like I've mentioned before, you were immaculate. Was that your character?
No, I think you go out, your pads are always clean, your gloves are clean. You've got to look good, haven't you, before you go out?
Yeah.
I think if you look smart, you're halfway there, and then obviously there's no point looking smart if you can't do it either.
No.
Well, and just to come back to a point that we were talking about before, do you think enough that keepers are appreciative of what they actually do on the pitch, as in standing up, or if a batter stood out of his crease, in how you try and help a bowler?
Well, I'll tell you what now, and that's a really, really good point. You know, during my career and of playing with the players I did do, my best feeling is when one of my peers, i.e. one of my own teammates, would come to me at the end of a day's play and say to me, "Chucky, that was magnificent today. You kept great. I might not have done anything out of the ordinary. I might not have taken a one-handed catch, leg side stumping. But Graham Fowler used to say to me, I appreciated. He used to say, 'Brilliant today. Your glove work was great. Your footwork was great,' and that gave me more pride than any headlines in the newspapers or any 5 victims. But having that kind of feedback from my peers was great, and that you must agree that's important when you're having a pint at the end of the day's play.
Well, I'll tell you, a keeper influences a game so much. Well, we know, but I don't think everybody else knows how much you can influence a game. From getting your batter out to whether he likes standing up, you don't like him standing up. Just you talk to him or whatever you do, because there's always a sledging bit. But you don't have to be bad with sledging. You just have to speak to him, don't you? You know what it's like. How are you doing? How's your day been today? It can be nice.
Absolutely, and Walsh, we'll come on to you because you know some of the research we did beforehand, and you were one of your early pros. Talk to you about sledging.
Yeah, so when I made my debut in '95, I was lucky enough. Mickey Dunn was the keeper at the time, and Mickey Dunn was a good keeper, a really good keeper. And he went on holiday, and I got fans from the club coming through. I was 15. You've got the goals for the last 6 games. I felt a bit sorry for Mickey, really, because I didn't really know the story whether he was retiring, but he was far better than I was. And I got a chance at Eswick. Rod Eswick was pro. So I'd been around the club while Eswick was pro for a few years, and you learn a lot from Rod in terms of your discipline, your attitude, your commitment. And Eswick he just had that aura about him. He knew when to say things. He knew when not to say things. He knew when to give you a look. he set a tone. And I always remember, and it's interesting, Tim mentions about kind of that presence, the keeper. You set a tone as a keeper, I believe, whether it's the mood on the pitch, whether it's the buzz, the vibe, whether it's, you know, something you do in your actions. But I think it starts with you. And I always remember Eswick saying, it starts with the keeper. The keeper sets the tone. He had immense presence anyway. He'd been around a long time, so everybody knew that. But he instilled that kind of in me in terms of, you set the tone. That's, you take everybody with you. And equally, if you're not setting that tone, you can equally keep it a bit on the line. You've got to make sure it's risen. So I took a lot from Eswick. He was an immense character, definitely. For me.
Really good point. And Boothie, we'll come on to you there. A sledger or mental degradation? Where do you stand in that one, pal? I remember I've played a lot of golf with you, so I know the answer.
I think I'm more of a mental sort of, you know, you look at the video with Flintoff and Tino Bress, you know, mind the windows team. I'm a bit more like that. I'd rather pick on something rather than give someone a load of grief. I'd rather, you know, maybe pick something or ask them if they, I bet you can't do this, or I bet you can't do that. And I seem to get a few more bites than most. Try, like Tim said, try and be nice, but not too nice.
And have a bit of an edge. And JP, you know, you played against a hell of a lot of good players as well. What did you feel was the right thing to do? Were you a sledger?
If they nicked it and stood there, they were having it all afternoon.
No, that.
Been over, settled, or relentless. If they nicked it and stood there, they were having it all afternoon. 100%.
And what about if you've gone out for your bat and you've been chirped by the keeper and you're a keeper, and they're second?
Yeah.
Then that's a, you know, all the wicket keeping goes out the room then, isn't it?
Yeah. All teams having it then.
Oh,
I think it always. I think it depends also. Knowing your opponent, there'll be some players you know you don't really have to say anything. There are some players you just throw a little bit of it out there and they're all over it. So it would depend, and you'd get a bite out of some more than others. And equally, whilst on some occasions that would work in your favour, on other occasions it would go against you where some players wanted that and that got them going, and you'd be like, oh shit, I wish I'd never said anything. So I think you can see both sides, and over time you learn who to throw it out there to, and certainly you do not say a word. So I think it comes with a bit of experience that as well as you go along.
Yeah, definitely. It's a really good point. That wicket keepers union goes out the window if the opposition's keeper lets you have it. Gloves are off. You're having it back. And
it's bad then.
We can be toxic, can't we? We can be nice. We've mentioned we can be nice, but we've got one here. This little balding fella here in the left-hand corner that I'm looking has got the worst toxic mouth than I've ever seen him. And if someone warrants being given it to, I think Boothie's going to give it to. But you know, guys, let's move on from that. We're all competitors, and we've mentioned it. We're all showmen, aren't we? As a keeper, you are the central point of the of that fielding team. I think Tim, you mentioned it before, and that dressing room vibe before you go out is usually led by the keeper. Tim, am I right in saying that?
100%, mate. You've got to get out, fire up, and you fire them up. That's it. Easy. Ballers of one good ball, first over, good ball. You get everybody fired up a little bit. You're doing the talking, and you doing that talking, as you know, then it might be affecting the batters a little bit, or just you got a catch come in. It's anything, isn't it? But as long as you've got your field and you're them on that side, oh yeah, you're the man who fires it up. Yeah, it's not your bowler. It's nobody, is it? Apart from, I will say, Paul Berry could have his moments where he'd have a clap, a bit of a chirp, and he could get a few people fired up as well.
Yeah.
Stewie just used to spit on the floor, really, and throw a spit in. Oh, you could go on forever, couldn't you? You could talk forever about league side and what. I mean, just throwing on league side. When we played, we had a team that fired up like, oh, your Stewie, your Taddy. When Craig Lavelle played, and I'll tell you what, there's everybody. Dave Smith, Dave White. He was me keeping in bowling, I just wanted to stand up. Mate, you're always expecting something, and a funny chip coming at your bat, you didn't need to do anything, but that was, that was a team of fiery, that team.
Yeah.
For about 5 or 6 years that we had there.
I always found coming from a lovely little idyllic village cricket league that we talked about before we came on air, really, coming into the Bolton League, where one, I learned how to drink, and two, I learned how to swear. They were the two things I took from the Bolton League. But let's talk about, and I know a couple of you have touched on it before, the importance of standing up to the wicket, standing up to the wicket and stumpings. JP, you had soft hands and you had a good technique. Is the standing up to the pitch, is that something you worked a hell of a lot on?
Absolutely. As you know, I only got coached keeping when I was 30-year-old by you at Penwortham.
Right.
And I'd always kept a quick bowler's copping, a little bit to Eswick. And then I would go into Tong for Ezra Mosley. And all of a sudden, he couldn't come, he had a bad back. And then it was Iqbal Sikandar.
Wow.
And I was like, oh my God, I've got to get some yards in here. And that full winter with you at Penwortham, absolutely priceless. Iqbal came on Thursday night. I'm knocking on his door. Get your boots on, cop. You're not making me look stupid. And we played Edgerton on Saturday. First game that he was I think the first game of season. They had it, and I'm thinking, he wakes up Saturday morning, and I'm thinking, oh my God, I've got to keep to that mom. And he was turning it a yard on outfield at Tom, honestly. And bouncing, I was taking everything here like that. And I'm like, oh my God, if I miss one and over, it's 100 buys. Anyway, Steve Davis is opening batting for them. And he went, I knew you hadn't sussed him. You couldn't suss him out. He said, I'm waiting for the signal for Rongan. So he says straight away, Val used to do that with his like I do now. So Gucci spots this signal straight away, and I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe it. Anyway, I says, Gucci, have you gone and told them all? He went, no, let them work it out for themselves. and they were two guys, and they had a gobby keeper called Richard Holmes, an Aussie, left-hander, and Iqbal's give it that one, and he's gone dancing now, massive wrong gun. I'm like, that waiting for it. I thought, this is great, this.
Hey, JP, and you don't just take a bail off, do you?
Ooh, no, it's smashing them all down.
Explosion.
Knock them all over.
I know I was a bit back once at Ormskirk and went back and knocked it in. Sorry,
Brilliant. That's fantastic. And let's talk to all four of you now about the players you've played with. You didn't play first class cricket, or you didn't play at professional level, so be it. But you played with some fantastic cricketers. And for lads, even today, coming from a 9-to-5 week. And playing on a Saturday with some of the great names that you've played, it must have been a real treat. And Boothie, we'll start with you. Who's the best pro bowler that you've ever kept? What do you think?
I've kept to a lot of good ones, I think, but the only one I can probably throw in will be Hawani at Heaton.
Oh, the Indian guy.
Brilliant. He's world record holder for Test wickets on debut. Similar story to JP. I gets the call. Goes to Heaton Cricket Club on the Thursday night, meets John Feerick there, who'd gone from Atherton. And then he said, we've got this leg spinner. We don't know much about him, but he got 16 wickets on debut in a test match. I'm like, oh no, he's going to make me look an idiot. And he did. He made me look an idiot for about 6 weeks, to be fair. But then when I sort of worked with him, and again, JP was coaching me at the time, I just put the hours in, essentially. And he made most people look stupid. He was only small. He could toss it up. He could bowl a quicker one. He had everything going for him, and he was he was an absolute magician and a joy to keep to. And the reason why I'm up there in the figures with these boys is because of him. I think I've got the more stumpings. Sorry, JP, I'm gonna have to throw this in. But, yeah, miles more than everyone. So I've more stumpings in Bolton League history. Thanks, JP. Have a slice of that.
Walshy, we'll move on to you. Who's the best pro or amateur really that you've kept to on the bowling front?
Yeah, I mentioned I didn't play long enough with Eswick. I played 6 games. I would have loved to have played a lot longer with a bowler of that ilk and that experience. We then followed Eswick with a few West Indians. We had Kevin Darlington, was a Guianan, really excellent fast bowler.
That's right.
And we had Kurt Wilkinson, again, a Bayesian, good, strong fast bowler. But the wicket started to decline at that point a little bit. So the West Indians started to lose a little bit of interest. It wasn't quite there for them. And we moved to more of a different model as a club. We changed our model and we went to more of an amateur-based English setup. So I've kept to people like Chris Barrow for 10 years, excellent left-arm spinner. Mm-hmm. He jokes, Chris, and he'll tell you this himself, he doesn't turn it much, but he just turns it enough. And that is a lot of his secret. When he turns that odd one, it does for a lot of them. He's got a good faster ball. So a good range of pros, really. But I played with some really good amateurs, Dave Parkey, Matt Parkey, Liam Bones for 1 season, Dave Mather for 4 or 5 seasons. So some decent amateurs at that latter end. But all different bowlers that build you as a keeper. They develop you all round. So that's the main thing.
Did you put the hard yards in at training?
Yeah, I did when I was younger. I probably found beer clubs Saturday nights, Friday nights as well when I was probably early 20s, a bit too much. I felt I could have probably done a little bit more in terms of that training. Interesting, Tim says about his batting. I've only one regret I have is probably not working as hard on my batting as I probably should have done. I had a little bit of talent as a kid coming through and then didn't really pursue that in the seniors. So, and then the latter end, I put more in at the latter end. I think when you see you've got, 6 or 7 years left, you probably put a bit more in then because you really want to make it worthwhile. So yeah, but all enjoyable years without doubt.
Brilliant. And Tim, we'll move on to you. Your best pro or amateur bowler that you kept wicket to, in your opinion.
Kept wicket to league or into okay. So I got introduced with Duncan Worsley.
Yeah.
Big offie.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he kind of set me up because I'd played early doors at Horwich and then playing at the juniors at Lancashire. They said, you've got to play first team cricket. Went to Roe Green, played first team, and then went back to Duncan Worsley, that's where I started. So I was quite lucky, though I never got a leggy. That's why they got all the stumpings, obviously.
You didn't mate, I tell you.
Leggies get them on. But I did have Duncan Worsley and I had Maninder Singh. He got the yips.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and then he started playing when he was playing at Blackpool. And then he came to us and he got rid of it. But from him and Arshad Ayub, but Maninder Singh is probably who I've played with on a regular basis, probably the best the best bowler to keep to. Turns it away in his arm ball, which everybody will know.
Yeah.
Probably about 70 mile an hour. You just nip in, big arm ball, always down leg side, always a stumping chance. It was crazy.
Always a stumping chance, or one of them.
It was one of them, yeah. You had to give all lads a nod because they had me ready for it, and everybody walked back a yard, so everybody clicked it anyway. That was about halfway through the season. Within the first 3 games, I think I had 11. You remember, JP? I had about 11 stumpings because me and JP used to be out forward all the time. Any victims have you got? There you go.
That's brilliant. And JP, I think I'll know the answer to what you're going to say. The best bowler that you kept to and in your time behind the stumps.
To be fair, I was blessed with loads of good bowlers. I mean, Wendell Coppin were brilliant for me. Going decent pace, shaping it away. Sure. When I went to Black Rod, Alan Baybutt were brilliant for me. But Iqbal were just different gravy. He was just everything you want. I say to kids now, I said, go and keg spinner or somebody who's really, really quick.
Yeah.
Chalky was brilliant.
Yeah.
Was he?
Don't tell him. Yeah.
Was he?
Decent pace, shaping it away.
Yeah.
I'm just looking through the clubs here.
Just give him half an hour while he looks through his clubs.
Yeah. Might be a separate piece, that.
Yeah.
All right, we'll stick to clubs in the Lancashire area. How many have you actually played for, JP? Have you donned the gloves for how many teams?
13 on my list here. I signed for Cherry, but I didn't play.
Right.
But I went back to a couple of sides. I went back to Social and I went back to Black Rod. So it's 11 really. I were either very popular or very unpopular.
Popular party, popular.
Walshy, who's a one club man. Walshy's a one club man. He's social circle. That right, Walshy?
Yeah, I didn't move. Started when I played my first game when I was 9. Just crept into the under-13s because nobody else would play. And like Boothie said, someone said, "Hey, put these on, lad. Have a go at this." And that was it. So
you were Kevin Arnold at one of the years.
Absolutely. Fred Savage party. You're absolutely right. Yeah, that's coming out again actually with this lockdown, with this afro on my head. I'll tell you. Yeah. It's right.
Clubs. If I'm not mistaken, when I played against you, were you not at Heaton?
Yeah.
I thought
played at Dalvin Eaton. Yeah, that was early doors. I've done Eaton, Little Lever, Tongue, and Eagley.
Yeah.
And Rugby. I started at Orwich. I'd have probably ended up staying at Orwich for quite a while, but things didn't work out too well. Who?
Preston.
Oh, I went to Preston. Yeah. Malcolm Marshall. I played against Marshall. In fact, I played against Mr. Flintoff there. I tried giving him a bit of sledging. He came in at 16. I tried giving him a bit of sledging. He slogged first, and I said, slog second, 4-4. Slog next one, 6. I said, sloggers are in. That was me sledging. Then he got 50 not out, and that were it. That was brief. It was only 16, so I never said anything. Just slog the shit out of it, and that was it.
And you know what? Many have tried to give it Fred over the years, and he's got one step. But Boothie, you've not had many clubs in your life, and I think since I've known you, you've been a Farnworth man.
Well, I started at Farnworth, and then I moved to Circle because of the junior setup just wasn't there. So I moved to Circle, and I couldn't shift Walshire, so I got my chance at Heaton. So I went to Heaton. I owe everything to Heaton because they give me a chance at 14-year-old to go into the first team, which you don't get really. You don't get that sort of opportunity. And then I went back to Farnworth in 2005, and I've been there ever since.
Fantastic. That's good to see. And I'm going to touch and rewind a little bit because a couple of you have mentioned it, and it's on my list of things to bring up. And that's the subject of batting. Now, we all know in the Bolton League and the Bolton surrounding areas, we play one-day cricket. The wicket keeper, especially these days now, can't be carried. He's got to pull his weight with the bat. JP, we'll start with you. As a keeper, especially in our days, in my day, it's what made me stand out and get in front of the likes of Tim, the likes of Carl Cricken into that league side because of that ability to be able to score a few runs. Tim was as equally good a keeper as I was, as equally good a keeper as Carl Cricken was. But that ability, even in those days, to be able to score a dogged 30 or a match-winning 20 was very important. JP, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I did all right. I could slog it a bit. Left hand, bit of an advantage, But one Bolton League 100, only one, but a good one.
Oh, that's good.
Farnworth.
Really?
101 not out, 19 for 5 when I went in. Me and Tap put 140 on. And then about 3 overs in, I went, Tap, you can join in, you can score a few if you want. Yeah. So, yeah, massively important now. And I think it's overtaking the keeping for me now, and I'm not sure it should do.
No, I'm sure we all agree with that. I'm sure everyone agrees with that. Boothie, you had a good season last year. I think you scored 100, and you probably agree with JP regarding that keeping is probably got to be a little bit more important than the batting.
Yeah, I think, definitely. If you've got top class bowlers, and we've mentioned people like Coppin and Sikandar and Awani, and you can't just throw anyone behind stumps with them sort of fellas bowling, because they're going to get found out. You've got to have people who can do the job. So, yeah, it's important to be a batsman. It's important to, contribute in the runs. But ultimately, if you've got top bowlers and you want to be successful, you've got to have a top keeper. It's no good being a great batter and being able to keep a bit. You're going to lose more games than you win. Whereas being a top keeper, like Tim said, you can impose yourself on the game and you can pull everyone with you. And essentially, you could win half a dozen games just by having that vibe.
Yeah, that's really important. Walsh, I know you have given us a bit of an idea of your batting. You said you worked on your batting later on in your career. Was it something, if you went back, you'd want to change it?
I did. When I was a junior, I enjoyed batting. I batted quite high up as a junior in club cricket, representative cricket, did all right. And then I think as I came into the seniors in a first team capacity, you had to earn that right to bat in the top 5 and 6, rightly so. We had a lot of good players at Circle when I was first coming in, and I don't think I gave it enough attention. I didn't give it enough attention. I regret not doing that, really, because I think I had more to offer the team in hindsight. And then I think now when you refer to kids and keeping, I think batting is so high profile through what they see on the telly, through T20, through one day, that actually when you're coming through and you want to keep, you want to bat as well. You actually want to bat more than you want to keep, because it's exciting. There's all different shots, these 360-degree players that's referred to. So I think the profile around batting has changed. But I equally think Boothie's right. That cannot get lost, and Party's right in terms of the importance of a quality technical keeper that can also bat. It's massively important because of the role they play with the gloves on. I think kids are changing the mentality with the batting and keeping at the same time.
Absolutely. You've all played at clubs where there's lots of good pros around, lots of good bowling pros around. You can't nick off the opposition's opening batter who's a 1,200, 1,300 runs a season man. You're in debt straight away as a keeper. So your keeping's got to be your first one. But we'll come back to Tim. Your batting, is it something that you wish you'd have worked a little bit more on, or were you just happy the way it went?
Early doors when I went to Roe Green, at 16. Okay, I was 16 and I went and played at County Seconds against Derbyshire. Steve Ashawn, I'll tell you that story actually. He was playing then, and John Abrams, Harry Pilling.
Yeah.
Well, I was at school and I got a call. There's no keeper. Can you get down to Derbyshire? My dad picked me up at school. I went down to Derbyshire with my coffin, walked into changing rooms to a big ghetto blaster about this big right outside. John Abrams in his jockstrap, Michael Jackson. He's cutting shapes. I'm 16, right? He's cutting shapes. Toilet doors open. I think it was Chaddy Blonder. Chadwick he was.
Mark
right.
Chadwick.
Yeah, Mark Chadwick, yeah.
He's got toilet door. He's having a shit with his pads on because he's next in, right? And Neil Radford's padded up, saying, "I'm not flipping going in for you if you're not having if you finish your shit." And then he went out. So Radford had to go in. So that was kind of the introduction. I'm stood there going, "Oh, what's that about?"
Professional cricket.
And that was my introduction into that. But my batting, I'd gone to Roe Green, and I just batted, so I could score runs. I've scored under 18s. Then I started playing at first team, and I was scoring some 80s, 60s. I remember scoring down at Adlington. Anyway, I was scoring a few runs, and then it got to the Lancashire Cricket Federation, like the under 18s, 19s, and I started getting coached. And they told me that my batting was wrong, that you've got to hold your bat up here, your chin's got to be there. When that bowler runs up, you can't move. So my batting went out the window, right? So what they were doing, they were stopping the bowlers to see if I moved. And they're saying, don't move till he's let go of that ball. And that was me from then on to trying to change my batting.
Nah.
So from then on, all of a sudden, and what you see now when it's like, you could stand where you want as long as you could hit it, it kind of all changed then. And it lost all my confidence. And my keeping were getting better. And I don't know, that's kind of how it went. I ended up, I got some runs and I could bat when I could bat, but not like I would have liked to have carried on as I did at that time.
Tim, your batting. Let's talk about your batting. Innovative shots that we talk about now, reverse sweeps, laps. Is that coming more and more into the game from keepers, do you think?
Yeah, I think so. I think a lot of keepers that you could, look. I mean, obviously, Josh Butler is the one who plays all these daft shots the best. Alex Davis is another one. He plays some ridiculous shots.
Yeah.
But I think I actually got asked this the other week with regards to reverse sweeps and stuff like that. I think it's easier to play them shots as a keeper because you see that the game in a totally different way, and you pick up the speed of the game, and especially if you've kept first as well, and then you bat in second. And I think it gives you a huge advantage to be able to pick up the speed of the wicket, and the rest of it. And the vision's a big thing. Some grounds are a lot easier to see and some aren't. So, I think innovative shots are definitely something that a lot of keepers seem to play.
Walsh, did you want to add something to that?
No, I was just going to say to Tim, I remember a fantastic knock of yours in the AIMA Cup final at Edgy when you and Fozzie were in at the end. I was watching that game because I had a lot of friends at a lot of friends at Eagly. I went to Cannon School, so we knocked about around there, and we were up at Edgy that day. And you were dead and buried, absolutely dead and buried, weren't you?
Yeah,
it was a brilliant knock. So yeah,
that was entertaining for the crowd, I think.
Oh mate, it was brilliant. It was a dead game, at time. It was game over, but it was brilliant. So yeah, I won't put your batting down too much, mate. You won an AIMA Cup on the back of it.
Thank you, Christian.
Not many people could say that. And JP, let's talk to you about coaching young keepers. You do a lot with age group keepers, and what's one thing that you would focus on? Well, Boothie, we'll come to you next because I know you do a bit of keeping coaching at Farnworth as well. But how do you work with these young kids coming through, JP?
Just tell them catch ball, keep the head still, just catch ball.
Don't
get a feel for it.
Yeah.
But like they've got to want to do it, haven't they? You can talk technical all day long, can't you? They've got to want to do it, and they've got to have a good processes. Head still, eyes level, good hands, head going with gloves, blah blah blah. You can go on forever, can't you? You've got to want to do it.
Yeah. I've got something here. The notes they've made, and what's more important, mental toughness or technical skill to fall back on when things are not going quite right? Not every day as keepers, and we'll know this, that you walk out onto the field and the ball goes in the middle of the gloves, your hands work. What's more important if it's not one of your days? Walsh, we'll start with you with the most victims in the Bolton League. How did you process your thoughts when things weren't as good as they should be on a particular day?
I think confidence. Is a huge thing. So that mental side, that mental preparation. We all had bad spells, and I mean bad spells for sometimes could go games where you weren't necessarily dropping everything. It just didn't go in right. Your feet weren't quite right. A few things went wrong, and you had to have that mental toughness to say, do you know what, I'm going to try and get through this. And I personally, and certainly as I got older, I reverted to just do what you do. Just don't think about it too much. Do what you do. And I tried to stand up. But whenever it was going a bit wrong, as daft as it may sound, I tried to stand up to the stumps because I felt then instinctively I'd just react. I'd take a clean one and then I'd be back. I'd take a couple of, you'd feel a lot better. So, but I do think going back to the kids thing, the mental toughness is part of what coaches and clubs have a responsibility to try and support kids through, because I think when we were kids, and I'll speak for myself, you didn't really get that mental coaching side, the self-belief, the confidence that you're good enough, don't worry about making mistakes. And how to bounce back. So it's important for the kids these days to get that mental toughness. But you're right, Party, they've got to want to do it in the first place as well. I agree with that.
Anyone else got anything to add on the mental side or skill side? Boothig, have you got anything to add to that as a coach?
I think obviously as a coach, you've got to try. Christian's right. You've got to try and instill some sort of confidence into these lads and make sure that they know that they're good enough. But sort of going back to on the field, especially in a first team game, if you drop one, you're going to cop for it from first slip, goalie, someone who's never kept in the life, some idiot from long gone, giving you a bit. They're all experts, but they've never actually done it. I lost my temper once in a game at Walton years ago, and I'm not going to mention the guy's name. Threw all my kit down. I went, right, go on, you stick them on if it's that easy. And that lost the plot in the middle of a first team game. I would never do that now because I know I back myself, and if I drop one, I'll just try and catch two more. So I think Christian's right. If we try and instill that into youngsters, it's okay to make a mistake, but if you do drop one, you've got to try and get yourself out of the mire and do something a bit spectacular. Stand up, put yourself in the shop window.
Because it could come the next ball. It could come the next ball. There's occasion for me. I dropped Graham Clinton at Old Trafford off Wazim Akram when we played one-day cricket with still in white clothes and red ball, and I dropped a goober off Graham Clinton, left-hander, little nick, up here, spilled it. Now, the very next ball, he did exactly the same. I took off one-handed and plucked it out the sky, and that's forgotten. That catch is forgotten then. And as a young keeper, Tim, I don't know what your thoughts are, but you can dwell on mistakes, which is the easiest thing in the world for you four guys who are very experienced wicketkeepers to say, forget about it, it's gone. It doesn't happen like that, does it?
No, it doesn't happen like that. You don't forget about it. It ain't gone. Just an example, personal experience, couple of examples. I was playing interleague and I told my slip to go wider, and Taddy was actually bowling. And I said, go wider, but he didn't go wider. And as I looked, I was uncomfortable, a little nick, and I've gone for the ball and I've just pulled my hands away. It's hit my finger, first over, it's dobbed on floor. So you look at your first slip wanting to blame it on him, don't you? And you can't. So it starts raining. We're playing Northern League. Anyway, what happened? We did about 10 overs, rained off in the changing rooms, and I heard a chip off one of the selectors in the back about, I think I'll have been about like 29 then, about, do you think you should be playing at league side? I heard that comment. I've never heard anything like that before. So that actually fired me up. So mental-wise, I think because I was older, helped me. So I went out there and I just stood up to everybody. I ended up with 3 stumpings, 2 catches. We won game. It was great. I just absolutely loved it. But that's because I was a bit older. But younger, when I did play a county game, actually, against Jeff Boycott in his last game. And Murphy run up, bowled. And this was the first ball of the first innings. And he bowled it. And I moved too early. It come after me, swung and went straight for 4 byes. And I thought, they all think I'm a complete tosser now, don't they? My own teammates think I'm a tosser. He's just bowled it out offside. It's just gone straight through me for 4 byes. And that was difficult because I was young then, and it was like, what do you think of me? So dealing with that. So I think mental-wise, get that into kids or anything early. Then you're fighting it. Yeah, I think that's if you can do it. How you do it, I don't know.
Good point. JP, you dropped one in 1989. I remember. I think that's the only one you've ever dropped. How did you deal with tough days with the gloves on?
I dropped one in 2018 as well. You've got to be resilient, haven't you? That's the word, innit? And like that, you got one, and then next ball they nick it again. I think I did that off Teebs. I think I dropped him the next ball. You just got to be resilient. And if we all had £1 for everyone we'd missed, we'd be driving around in Tim Wallwork's car.
JP.
Brilliant. Right, Lads, you know what? I've really enjoyed this catch up. We've got 4 very, very experienced, very, very good wicket keepers in Bolton cricket. And you know what? Whether you've played Test matches or whether you've played third 11, a keeper never changes. The character that we have, the resilience that we have, the grubbiness that we have sometimes, you know, is unparalleled. But catching up with you 4 guys tonight has been a real treat, and you know I've loved listening to some of the thoughts and some of the tales from Bolton League cricket. From me, Warren Hegg, thank you for Simon for inviting me to run this tonight on the keepers, on the BCL Beyond the Boundary. It's been great fun. Keep up the good work you're doing during lockdown. I'm sure you've given every cricket-loving fan around the Bolton League area a really good couple of interviews, and I've certainly enjoyed them. Lads, thank you so much for taking the time. Enjoy yourself. Fingers crossed we get some kind of cricket this year, and I look forward to sharing a San Miguel with you somewhere around the traps.
Lovely. Thanks, Warren.
Cheers, Warren.
See you, Warren.
Cheers, boys.
Yeah, Pete.
See you, chaps.
Sorry, Warren.